In the Texas Longhorns Week 3 matchup against UTSA, Quinn Ewers, their senior quarterback, went down with an injury, and their freshman quarterback, Arch Manning, was thrown into action. Arch Manning took his opportunity and ran with it. He's been better than anybody could have ever expected. And a bit of speculation has begun to rise surrounding what should the Longhorns do when Quinn Ewers is back. Should they maybe run with Arch Manning, who's been playing good football? Nonetheless, this past Monday, head coach Steve Sarkisian announced that in this upcoming weekend's rivalry game between the Sooners and the Longhorns, the Longhorns will be going with their senior quarterback, Quinn Ewers. Let's get into each quarterback's resume and decide, is this the right move or not, and why?
Territory, Ewers from the pocket. Now he'll loft one downfield. A ton of air running underneath it. Worthy's got it for a touchdown.
See how he feels. Okay, I got him where I want him. Let's put it up in the air, one-on-one against the freshman, and he goes to one of the top receivers in the country, Worthy.
Let's start with Arch Manning's resume. Obviously, the last name Manning is familiar because he is indeed the nephew of Super Bowl winning quarterbacks Peyton and Eli Manning. And courtesy of private coaching at a young age from his Super Bowl winning uncles, Arch Manning made a name for himself as a quarterback prodigy already in high school. And he was the #1 ranked recruiting prospect in the nation in the class of 2023. And he ultimately committed to play his college football under Steve Sarkisian at the University of Texas. And originally, he had the talent to start in his first year, but it didn't end up working out. The stars didn't align because Quinn Ewers was there. And then when Quinn Ewers surprised us and decided to stay for one more year, there was some speculation regarding should Arch Manning transfer. After all, he was the #1 prospect in the nation. Should he be on the bench for 2 years? And Manning decided to stay loyal and stay with the Longhorns, and his loyalty ended up paying off, and he ended up getting his opportunity in weeks 3 through 5, and he ended up making the most of his opportunity. In these 3 games, he obviously got 3 wins, 901 passing yards, 9 passing touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, 82 rushing yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. He obviously made the most of this opportunity, and he's played great football, especially for a freshman, and he has a solid case to start for the rest of the season. So now let's get into the more complicated resume, the resume of Quinn Ewers. And much like Manning, Quinn Ewers was a quarterback prodigy at a young age. He was the #1 ranked recruit in the country, 5-star quarterback, and he ended up committing to play for Ryan Day at The Ohio State University. And The Ohio State University, the way their quarterback room usually works is they'll bring in multiple top quarterbacks and make them compete, and only one will get to start. And the other ones will just kind of be wasted. However, if you do start at The Ohio State University, there's a very high chance of you being a first-round pick. Just in the last few years, we've seen Dwayne Haskins be a first-round pick. We've seen Justin Fields be a first-round pick. We've seen C.J. Stroud be a first-round pick. So Quinn Ewers decided to put in all the marbles and go try to play quarterback at The Ohio State University. And obviously, unfortunately for Ewers, it didn't work out. He didn't win the quarterback battle. He lost to C.J. Stroud. And then when C.J. Stroud decided to come back for another year, Ewers understood that maybe he should try a different route. He ended up hopping into the transfer portal and going to play for Steve Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns at University of Texas. And Sarkisian, he was coming off his first year as the head coach in Texas. And what he was brought into Texas to do was to restore the former glory of the Texas Longhorns. They were a struggling program, and he was supposed to come in and bring them back to their old glory. And obviously, in his first year, that didn't work. They went 5-7. And his excuse was poor quarterback play. So now that he has his quarterback, he's out of excuses, and there's a ton of pressure on Sarkisian and Ewers to be great right out of the gate. And that didn't really happen. 2022 was very solid for Quinn Ewers and Steve Sarkisian. Ewers missed 3 games due to injury, but in the 10 games he played, he threw for 2,177 yards, 15 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions, not much production on the ground. And overall, including the games they missed, Texas ended up going 8-5. And that's very borderline. Couldn't really decide, is that enough? Is that not enough? And the program decided to give Sarkisian and Ewers one more season to prove themselves. And they did not regret that. In 2023, Ewers and the Texas Longhorns made themselves known as the top dogs in NCAA football. Ewers absolutely popped off. In 14 games in 2023, Ewers threw for 3,479 yards, 22 passing touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, 75 rushing yards, and there were 5 touchdowns on the ground as he led Texas to a 12-1 season, which was good enough for them to be the #3 ranked team on the AP poll, which was good enough to bring them to the college football playoffs for the first time. And college football playoffs only started in 2014, so it's not that big of a drought, but it's still a significant drought. So it's a big-time accomplishment for Ewers. And unfortunately, the Texas Longhorns and Quinn Ewers lost in the Sugar Bowl, the semifinals, in a shootout to Michael Penix Jr. and the Washington Huskies 37-31, and their season ended in crushing fashion. However, they definitely did enough to prove and establish themselves as the core of this Texas Longhorns football program. And Ewers probably could have been drafted in the second or third round, but he decided that now I've established myself, I got to come back for another year and try to run it back and try to finish the job, seal the deal this time with a national championship. And week 1, it looked good as Texas dropped a 52-0 win against the Colorado State Rams. Week 2, it looked even better as they played the defending champions, the scary Michigan Wolverines, and Ewers made their defense look like a bunch of clowns. He threw 3 touchdown passes against Michigan on his way to leading the Longhorns to a 31-12 win in the Loud House, in the Big House, up in Ann Arbor. And then in week 3, it started good. As they played UTSA, Quinn Ewers put up 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, but then the second quarter, disaster struck. He hurt his oblique, and obviously, since then, he's been watching us on the sidelines as Arch Manning has done his thing. That brings us to Steve Sarkisian's recent announcement that he's going with Ewers for the upcoming big games against the Oklahoma Sooners and the Georgia Bulldogs. And I believe that this is the right move for 3 reasons. First reason, Ewers has much more experience. Manning has only played in 3 collegiate games, while Ewers has started 26 collegiate games, has played in 3 bowl games / championship games, and just got a big win against Michigan on the road, proving that he can play when the lights are brightest. When the lights are brightest, he can step up his game. And there is no question about Ewers. However, when we're talking about Manning, we don't know. He's only played 3 games. The kid's still 19, 20. He's a young kid. Ewers is a much safer bet. Reason number 2, Ewers' stats are better. And while what Manning's doing as a freshman is more impressive than what Ewers has done as a senior, you look at Ewers' stats, they're better. He has a higher completion percentage, a lower interception rate. Their touchdown rate's pretty much the same. Ewers has been better. As impressive and exciting as Manning has been, Ewers has been better. And the third reason, which some people call it soft, some people won't agree with me, but I feel strongly about, is the impact he'll have on their careers. Ewers, this is his last year of eligibility. He could have been a second or third round draft pick last year. However, he decided to come back to Texas and run it back with Steve Sarkisian. He was loyal, and therefore I believe that he should get a chance to prove that he is a first-round pick. If he doesn't get this chance, if he remains as a backup for the rest of the season, he'll probably be a 3rd or 4th round pick, then go be an NFL career backup for a few years, and then be out of the NFL within like 6 or 7 years at most. However, if he gets this opportunity to prove himself, he could be a top 10 pick, and he could become a franchise quarterback for some team. On the other hand, Manning has our 3 years of eligibility after this. It was not going to affect him at all if he doesn't play this season. So for those reasons, I'm glad that Steve Sarkisian chose to go with Quinn Ewers, and I do not think he will regret it.
Territory, Ewers from the pocket. Now he'll loft one downfield. A ton of air running underneath it. Worthy's got it for a touchdown.
See how he feels. Okay, I got him where I want him. Let's put it up in the air, 1-on-1 against the freshman, and he goes to one of the top receivers in the country, Worthy,